Hi, everyone. Welcome to Actions in the Inbox, powered by Schemas. I'm Shalini Agarwal. This is Claudio Cherubino.
Hi.
And we are really excited to be here today to tell you about a cool new feature that we are launching in Gmail. So let's start with a show of hands. How many of you send emails to your users asking them to do something? All right. How many of you care if your users actually do what you ask them to do? Perfect. Okay, so then you know that today we have a problem. Email is not efficient. It's like a scavenger hunt trying to do anything. For every email that you send your users, they have to read the email, figure out what they need to do, open a bunch of tabs, decide to take the action, and then do it. It's a lot of steps, and each email takes too long to process. That's even if the user decides to open the email in the first place. So let's go ahead and see this inefficiency in action. How many steps do you think it takes to rate and review a restaurant? First, you get the email. Second, you click on it, you read it, and you decide that you're going to click on a link. Third, you click on the link, you open the tab, and you wait for it to load. Fourth, if you remember your login information, you enter it here. And fifth, you do what you wanted to do in the first place, which is rate and review the restaurant and click submit. And then sixth, you close the tab, and if you remember, you go back to your inbox to process the next email. That's a very cumbersome process, and users get lost along the way. This inefficiency is only made worse by the sheer volume of email. As a product manager at Google, I get a lot of email. In fact, I counted. And in the last week alone, I received 2,124 emails. During this session alone, over 100 million emails will be sent. Your users are out there doing this scavenger hunt right now. Between email inefficiency and email volume, it's no wonder that a lot of emails go unanswered or unopened. You are probably tracking your own stats and see some of that today. But today, we are introducing a solution. We're adding actions to the inbox, making email smarter. Now, your users can get the gist of what you're trying to tell them and take action without ever leaving the inbox, without even opening an email. So, remember the 6-step process that we talked about? Let's see what that looks like with actions in the inbox. With actions in the inbox, we're taking that 6-step process and turning it into just 2 steps. We'll take a look at it with a demo. Last night, I ordered food from India Clay Oven and via Seamless Web. Today, Seamless has sent me an email asking me to rate my experience. Seamless has added actions to their email. So I see the email, Seamless, asking me how was India Clay Oven, and I get this handy button on the right-hand side that says review. I click on it, and I get this beautiful overlay that gives me the key information I need, India Clay Oven via Seamless, a beautiful picture from the restaurant, and a quick rating widget. So I can go ahead and click it 5 stars and enter a comment. Spice-tastic. We'll definitely be back. Definitely order again. And I hit post review. On the back end, Gmail has now sent this rating to Seamless, and I'm done. That's it. 2 steps. Now that's efficient. Oops. Let's go back. So we've enabled actions in the inbox through the power of schemas. You guys already know about schemas. They're an important part of the web today. You add markup to your websites to improve your search results. Now, you can add markup to your emails to enable these actions directly from the inbox and deliver them to Gmail. You can deliver a slice of your app to Gmail starting today, a product with hundreds of millions of users. Over the coming weeks, we'll be rolling out 4 different kinds of actions. We've already talked about rate and review, and now we'll talk about the one-click action, the RSVP action, and the go-to action. And, of course, we'll do it through demos. So, as you can see here, I've gotten an email from Google Offers about an offer from American Apparel. Because they've added schema to their emails, I get this one-click button that says Get Offer. Because I shop at American Apparel all the time, I'll go ahead and click the offer. One click, without ever leaving the inbox, I save the offer. Now, let's go over to offers.google.com, reload the tab, and there it is. I didn't even have to open an email, and I've been able to save my offer. Now, one-click buttons are my favorite action because they enable the widest variety of use cases. So let's look at a second demo of the one-click action. I use a service called Esna to manage my communications. And they've sent me this email telling me that I have missed a call from Claudio. And because now seems like a good enough time as any to call him back, I'll click this one-click button that says dial. Now, on the back end, what's happening is that Gmail has notified Esna that I want to initiate the call. And they've initiated the call between Claudio and myself. As you can see, my phone is ringing. I'll go ahead and pick it up. I don't know if Claudio is going to pick it up. We'll find out.
Probably not.
So he'll be receiving a call any minute now that I've picked it up. And there we go.
Okay.
Woo! Hey, all right. One click directly from the inbox. The third type of action is the RSVP action. As you can see here, Clarence has invited me to a taco night, which is my favorite type of event. And I get, because Calendar has added actions to the inbox with some markup, I get this RSVP button right here. Similar to rate and review, when I click on it, I get the overlay showing me the most important information, the fact that it's a taco night, hosted by Google Calendar. It's on Tuesday at 7 p.m. It's at Tortilla Heights, and one person's already going. I don't miss a taco night, so of course I'm going to say yes, and there it is. I'm done. Let's go over to Google Calendar and make sure that my response was recorded. Here it is, taco night. I click on it, and there it is. Yes, I'm going. The fourth and final type of action is the go-to action. The go-to action is reserved for the most complex type of actions, which really cannot be handled from within the inbox. So flight check-in, as you can see here, the last email from Oceanic Airlines, I get a button on the right-hand side. They've used the go-to action. When I click on this button, it'll take me to a deep link on their website to check in, where I can select my seat, I can tell them how many bags I'm bringing, and whatever security questions I might have to answer. And that's it. Those are the 4 type of actions. However, sometimes no action is required. Sometimes your users just need key information from you. So for these situations, we've added structured interactive cards. The first one that we're adding is for flights. So when users get flight confirmation emails, check-in reminders, or updates, they get this beautiful card at the top of their email that gives them the airport details, the flight details, their connection times, as well as a real-time layer on top of that, telling them if their flight is on time, delayed, or hopefully not canceled. Flights is only the first card we're adding. Over time, we'll add more cards, such as events and hotels. So, by adding schema to your emails, you can enable these actions and cards in Gmail. However, you can also enable experiences for your users across Google. When your users use Google Now or Google Search, they will get the information that you send them at the most useful time and place. I'll leave you with one last thought. This is a developer platform, and the power of it really comes in how you decide to use it. We'll be rolling out these features over the next few weeks and be adding more over time. Now, I'll hand it over to Claudio to tell you how it all works.
Thanks, Shalini. Well, thank you. I haven't done anything yet. Sorry. So I'm very happy to be here. I work in the developer relations team for Google. And one of the questions that I always get when talking to developers like you is, how do I get my app into Gmail? It's a common request. I understand why you want to be in Gmail, why you want your app in Gmail. And today, we're finally introducing a way for you to do that. And what we're introducing is super simple. So not only we're giving you this opportunity, but we're giving an opportunity in the easiest possible way. All it takes is some markup that you have to add to your emails. So you have your emails. You probably already send emails to your users. So you have an HTML email with your content, your regular content. You don't have to touch it. You don't have to do anything with the content you're already sending. All you have to do is adding some markup, some extra markup to the same emails, and then clients will render that for you. So you add some markup at the top of your email, at the bottom of your email, in the middle, somewhere in your HTML, and clients like Gmail will render it for you. I said clients like Gmail, and I will go back to this, because this is going to be an open platform, and Gmail is starting to launch this in the coming weeks. But we expect other clients to implement this technology too. So what happens when you add your schema is that we render it as the corresponding button or drop-down or piece of UI or card, whatever corresponds to your markup. And one important thing to note there is that the UI is consistent. So Gmail will always render an event reservation, RSVP drop-down with the same UI, regardless of who's the sender. So your user will not be confused by messy UI or a piece of interface that do not really belong to Gmail. The client controls the experience, and that's really important for the users not to be confused and to use this technology. So you add the markup. It's going to be a few lines. I'm going to show that, and we will render it. And the one thing that I just mentioned is that this is based on an open platform. We're building on top of schema.org, which is a broader initiative, open initiative for a vocabulary of entities that we're building on top of. So the types we're defining, the types you will use in your markup, are the same types that you're already using if you know about schema.org. Well, let's show an example. This is how it looks like. And I actually have two different formats, because we support two different formats for this markup. The one on your left is the standard schema.org microdata. If you know about schema.org and semantic web, you've probably seen this, you've probably implemented this, you've probably added this to your HTML. It's pretty easy to understand. It's an XML-based language. Actually, what you do here is that you add some properties to your HTML. And these attributes will tell us what the item is. And in this example, we have an event. And then what properties the event has. The start time, the end time, location, and so on. The same thing can be also expressed with a different format. There is also another open standard. It's called JSON-LD. It is not XML-based. It's obviously JSON-based. And we found that this other format, this alternative format, is easier to read for humans. There are libraries to write both, so you as a developer can probably easily write both. But for a human, the one on the right, it's easier to write. So as you can see, those 10 lines and the ones on the right are just easier to read, tell us that this email is about an event. And that event starts at this day, ends at that date, and there's also location. And we will render it as an event should be rendered. So we have markup, different markup for the 4 different types of actions in structured data like flights. I will show you an example of each of them. And I would say that all of them are like shorter than 10 lines. At least, well, no more than 20 lines. So we have four different types of action, and we'll see them one by one. But all of them follow the same structure. So you will see that there are common sections every time I introduce a new type. And the sections are essentially 3 sections in each markup. So we usually have a section at the top that is about the entity you're defining. And that is, for instance, in the example we just saw, to describe what the event is or what the flight is. So the entity you're talking about. And that has properties that you can see from schema.org, from the vocabulary we're using. And after the item definition, we have our first addition to the schema, which is actions. Actions have different types and have different names. So if you want to implement a RSVP action or a review action, those have different types. And you have to specify that there. But then, in the third part, you describe what the handler is. The handler is used to tell us what to do with the action. So you've seen Gmail sending requests to you when the user performs an action. Those requests will be sent to a URL, to an endpoint, to a servlet, to somewhere you tell us. And that is where you define it. Let's go on with a real example. The first type of action I'm going to show you the markup for is one-click action. This is what Shalini called her favorite, because this is super flexible. Gmail renders these one-click actions as buttons. When the user clicks on the button, Gmail will send a request to your endpoint. So how this works in the microdata, in the markup you see, in this example, I'm showing an email that is about a movie. And one action you can perform with one click is add to your queue. So at the top, you will see some information about the movie title, and maybe the cast, maybe genre, all the other properties you want to add. And then we have the action. The action in this case is called save action. There will be a list of all the supported actions in the docs that we're launching right now. So at the end of this talk, I will give you a link to the documentation we're launching. But this action is called save action. You can customize what the button will look like. So you can customize the label for that button, and we're going to call it add to queue. And then you define the action handler. In this case, what you need to do is just say, when the user clicks on a button, I want a post request sent to my URL. So you send us this markup, you set up a servlet that can handle this request. When Gmail sends you a request in the background, you will have to handle the request, in this case, add the movie to the queue, and respond with a standard HTTP response code. So if the action is performed correctly, you respond with a 200, and Gmail will show it as successfully executed. If there is an error, for instance, the request is invalid, you respond with a 400. Standard HTTP response code, you know about that. So this is a common structure: entity, action, action handler. And you will see the same structure in the second type of action we are defining here. This is RSVP action. The main difference here is that Gmail knows that an RSVP action deserves a special UI, which is not a button, but it's instead a drop-down with some information about the entity, which is an event, and then buttons for you to reply. You as a developer can choose if you want yes, maybe, no, all of them, just yes and no. You can customize the look of this small drop-down. And once that is rendered, the result is always the same. Gmail renders it, the user clicks on one of the actions, one of the buttons, Gmail collects the input from the user, sends that as a post request to your endpoint with the parameters you want, you process it and respond with the appropriate response code. So on your side, you will still have to implement some servlet, some backend that can handle this, and then Gmail will talk to this directly. Now that you know two of them, this is going to be super easy to understand. Rate and review. You saw that in the first demo. We showed Seamless, which is one of our partners, using this technology to review restaurants from the inbox. What you can customize here is the scale. And in our case, that was 1 to 5 stars. And you can also tell us if you want an optional text feedback or if you want a required text feedback. It's up to you. Some companies need that. Some websites need both a text comment and a rating. Some others do not. Of course, the easier it is for your users, the better it will be, the more responses you will get. So that's basically it. You configure it, and then same thing. You get a request from Gmail, you respond to it, and that's it. And we render the response. The only action type that is slightly different is the go to link, go to action. This is rendered as a button with a link. In the case, we talked about check-in. Check-in is not an action that can be performed easily in the inbox. You have to select seats, buy upgrades, select food, meal, whatever. You have to do many steps, and that doesn't really apply to inside your inbox. So we can take you directly to the page where you can do that. Another example, and we have it here, is a request for you to sign some documents. The documents are not sent in the email. You can click on the link and be brought to the page where you can sign the documents. So we strongly recommend you to use and implement the in-app actions like RSVP, review, or one-click action, because with those, users do not have to leave the inbox. For all other cases, you can use a go-to action if that is the best user experience for your user. Of course, we plan to add more actions, and we want to listen from you about what you think might be useful to add. So we'll talk about it later, but we want to know what you plan to do with this. So we saw all the 4 types of actions. The other thing we're launching is structured data for specific items. And we talked about flights. A flight is a easy to understand piece of structured data. A flight has some specific properties. So we know about those properties. We know that a flight has a departure airport, an arrival airport. If you mark up those properties in the emails you send, then we can show that as a card in Gmail and in Search and in Now. We can also add buttons to that, like check-in if you want. But another important thing here is that Gmail will use the markup you send us to show the card. But also Gmail will update the information for a flight once we know that that is a flight with live data. So you send us information about a flight that leaves tomorrow at 8. If tomorrow we realize that the flight is delayed, Gmail will know that. And when you open the card, you will see the live information. It will say that the flight is delayed to 9. And same thing will do the other properties, like Google properties will do. So we have these 4 types of actions and flights. And you might have recognized some names in the slides that I showed you. That's because today we're launching with many partners. We've been working with partners in the past few weeks and months. And today we're very happy to have many, many partners ready to support this technology. You probably know and use some of these products. Some of these names are here at Google I/O and would be very happy to talk about their integration and their experience with this. They are upstairs in the 3rd floor in the Chrome and App Sandbox area. And after this talk, Shalini and I, the rest of the team, and the partners that are here, will all be upstairs for you to talk about this. So if you want to know more about this, please join us right after this at the Chrome and App Sandbox area. So okay, you know about what you can do. You've seen what other people have done. You might wonder, how do I join this? How do I do this myself? Well, first of all, there is the documentation we're launching right now. It's probably live already. And that documentation is at developers.google.com/gmail/schemas. So you can go there and find all documentation about all the types we support, all the actions. There are examples, there are tutorials, anything you need to get started now. And I want to stress this. You can start now, because when you go home tonight, you can test this yourself by sending emails with markup to yourself. This is a very, very easy way for you to test it. So we care about user experience. So we need to make sure that what lands into production, what lands into everyone's inbox is safe. But if you want to test it yourself, you can just send emails to yourself, and those will be processed and rendered. So you have an immediate, easy way to test it now. Once you test everything, and you have a compelling use case, and you want to launch this to production, please go back to developers.google.com/gmail/schemas. There is a page where you can sign up. At that page, you will find a form where you can tell us about your use case. And you can tell us about how that works and what is the advantage that the user have. Because what we want here is not just to add buttons everywhere, because that doesn't really help the users. What we want here is to add exciting use cases, exciting features, better ways for your users to do stuff inside Gmail. So please get back to us, and we promise to review your application and get back to you as soon as possible. We promise to be very quick. So everything is at developers.google.com/gmail/schemas. And with that, I think that's it. We showed you everything we wanted you to know about this for this launch. I just want to remind you that we're going to be upstairs after this talk. The whole team is going to be there. But we still got 10 minutes for questions. So Shalini and I will be really happy to get your questions. Thank you. Do we need microphones? Can you step to the microphone? I think it's going to be recorded. So.
Yep.
It's actually live streamed. Hey, Mom.
Okay. So we have a service that sends out event recommendations to people, but we've tried really hard to make sure we don't overwhelm people's inbox by bunching those all together, so you get 5 or 6 recommendations in one email. Can we have more than one action associated with an email, or do we need to send a single email for a single entity that can have an action against it?
So right now, what we're going to launch is a single action that can be related to a group of things. So the action, the single call to action is unique, one per email. But the entity can be actually a group of entities or multiple things. Of course, the action then has to either refer to one of them or to all of them as a group.
You showed some interesting examples of cards that sound like they're mapping to specific actions like rating or RSVPing. What is the capacity for more free-form customization to build sort of our own more customized type of forms that may be presented in that format?
Right. So over time, we'll be adding more types of actions, but right now, there's not that much. The customization lies within the box that you saw in terms of, can you, for RSVP, can you say yes or no or maybe, or what are the options? And the reason for that is that we want to make sure that we provide a consistent user experience, because if we allowed the UI to be completely customized, every email would look different, every box would look different, and it would again be difficult for users to figure out what to do and get things done. But we definitely want to hear about your use cases, because we do want to add more types of actions.
I think the bottom line there is that we want to add more actions, and we want to talk to you about them, what you actually need. But we need to find the fine line between adding a new action and allowing everyone to do anything.
Thanks. Hi. If Outlook.com or Yahoo Mail wanted to add schemas, could they?
You mean add to their emails or?
Yeah, so you could actually do the same kind of things. So if I write one email with schemas, then it would work in Outlook and in Yahoo Mail.
So as I said, this technology is open, and we actually would like them to support this.
So it is open.
Yeah, it is open.
Okay.
It's based on schema.org, and we are in talk with some other companies. So some other big names know about this already. And then, of course, it's up to them to implement it or not.
Of course.
But yeah, it's open. That's a
Yeah.
short answer.
Hi, what other applications other than Gmail will these actions become available in within the Google product offerings? For instance, voice, or Google, will it tie in with Google Voice? Obviously, Google now has access to that information. Are there other places we should look for to be able to provide cards?
So right now, this schema is supported by Gmail, Search, and Now. And not all of them support the same entities and the same actions. So the first step for us would be to have all of them support the same entities and same actions. Of course, it makes sense for each client. Another Google property that uses schema is Google+. So we're also standardizing the entities we support together with the Google+ team. And we realize that schema helps the web, helps other properties. So we're adding schema support to properties that where that makes sense. So far, we have identified these 4. So Gmail, Search, Now, and Plus. But if it makes sense for other properties to support schema, we'll be really happy to do it, and everyone at Google will be.
I guess my, for instance, would be the ability for not only Gmail to be able to show a card, but for other applications within Google to be able to take the same action. That's what I understand the schemas generally, could be parsed by anything. But from an action execution standpoint, you're saying that's still underway or not necessary?
It's underway. We're definitely thinking about adding actions to other properties.
Okay.
One, let's say, implementation detail is that we share the parsing technology. So at Google, of course. So it's easier for other properties to use it.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Hi. In your example, say, where you reviewed a restaurant, and at the end of it, you're done, but the email's still in your inbox. Is that going to be archived automatically at some point?
So right now what happens is that once you complete the action, the email is marked as read. We do not auto-archive the email at the moment. If we see that as a strong user request, we'll think about it. But right now, as we roll this out, we want to be sure that users understand what's happening. So that's not going to happen right now.
Hi, I saw screenshots of the list view, and I saw a card in a body view, but do the other buttons appear in the body view as well? So for example, like do the review?
Oh, you mean when the email is open?
Yes.
Yeah. So all in-app actions will appear in the body view as well.
Okay.
So the one-click action will appear, and rate and review has a nice card just like the flights does. RSVP has a nice card just like the flights does.
Got it, thanks. Sorry, one other question. The go to action button, building on the previous question, does it show completed even if you have to go to an external website to complete the action? Or does
the go to action doesn't really have a completed state.
Okay.
So it doesn't really change.
All right, great. Thank you.
Hi. For the developers that are building on top of Gmail, like third-party clients, how can we make sure that these emails are actually useful to the user? And do you have any help for the developers to implement the same type of actions depending on the schemas?
Well, one thing is that the vocabulary, the schema, is public. So in the documentation we explicitly say which types we support, and all the additions we added, like all the new things we added to the schema, are being added to schema.org, so that the public vocabulary, or at least are being considered by schema.org.
Okay.
So then it's on a third-party side to support this, what it takes is extracting the markup and supporting those specific types. Then the rendering.
Yeah, do you have any specific guidelines for like how it should be rendered and how it should behave?
I would say not really, because what we want is that the user interface is consistent within the client. So for Gmail, of course, we know how that should look like, but another client, like the same drop-down we use for Gmail might not be the best UI. So we will not ask you to implement any specific UI. Okay. And the only recommendation is, which is like a standard recommendation, is to make sure that that provides the best user experience and matches the consistent user interface.
If we have like is there like a developer support group that we can talk from the client side, not from the sender side?
You mean as a user that gets this actions?
Yeah. Well, for the third-party developers who are building email clients on top of Gmail, how can we get help from you?
So we have a page in the docs that also says that. But as we're doing with many other products at Google, we decided to support developers where they already are, which is Stack Overflow.
Okay.
So we're there. Okay. And another thing that I was advise is that is my Google Plus handle. Reach out to me directly. I'll be really happy to talk to you, like all developers, and I'll point you to the correct resource.
Thank you.
This is a quick question. I was just wondering if you guys are looking at bringing this to the mobile interfaces, so these actions on the iOS and the Android apps.
Yeah, so we are working on mobile as well, but it'll take time to get out.
Okay.
I agree that it's very useful on mobile.
How do you manage the authentication? Because all the action comes in an email that can be forwarded or anything. How do you manage how do you identify that the email you sent the action is completed by the person that you intended to do the action?
So we require emails to be signed, DKIM or SPF, to be signed so that we know who the sender is and we can guarantee that the sender is who the sender pretends to be or says is. And at launch, what we're doing right now is that we have a whitelist. So you as a developer, in order for your markup to be shown to all users, will have to be added to the whitelist. So we will have you to talk to us, tell us about your use case, show us what you do. We will add you to the whitelist. Then we know who you are. You sign your emails, and that proves that you are who you say you are.
Okay, just one other question. Are you considering more complex actions like kind of rating, but for e-commerce, when you rate that you bought something, but in the action maybe you are confirming that you bought that item, and that could cause a charge to be billed to the seller? And sometimes you can write positive only if you bought the item. Some logic inside the action. Are you considering that cases?
Not at this moment, I would say, but yeah, that's another use case we would like to talk about. Let's talk about it later if you're still around. Thank you.
Sort of related to the last two questions about lack of mobile and another need for degradation. If the recipient is not in a supported mode or the sender is not authenticated, is the degradation just that the actions don't show?
Yeah. So essentially, we're just being ignored.
And another question is, does that affect the SMTP envelope contents at all? For like enterprise use, none of this is going to be archived as part of the email itself, right? Or yes?
Doesn't affect anything.
So,
it's part of the HTML body. So it's like extra markup in the HTML body, unless there's some other part where that is stripped or prevented or blocked or anything. We don't do anything to prevent that. So it shouldn't affect that.
It should get delivered like any other message at that point.
Yeah. Thanks.
Recently, you added a feature in Gmail where you can add to calendar. Does that use schemas?
There are two things there. The add to calendar or the integration with calendar that you saw today and you will see in the next days are based on schema. that part is also uses some intelligence data, because that is, I mean, I think what you're talking about is the feature where Gmail understands you're talking about a date or an event, right? So that is actually based on some other machine learning things, where we try to understand that that email is about an event invitation.
Gotcha.
If we get that, because that is not really in the email. That can be triggered by me sending an email to you with no markup and saying, hey, can we go have a beer tomorrow?
That's what I thought.
So yeah, Gmail will understand that with machine learning technology.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. I think we have another question.
I have a question. You have, there's Gmail gadgets. I was wondering if you were thinking of, in the future, of implementing a way to launch a Gmail gadget from these actions.
I don't think we have any plans to do that.
You're talking about the gadgets on the right-hand side of Gmail?
Okay, sidebar gadgets or contextual gadgets?
No, the Gmail gadget.
Yeah, there's both. There's the full pane view that you can get, and then there's also sidebar gadgets. I was wondering if there was a way to interact.
Right now, there's no plans to do that, but tell us about what you'd like to do, and we can always...
Widgets.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, no plans. If there is a specific use case you have in mind, let us know, please. Thank you.
All right,
Well,
I think we're out of time, so
yeah.
thank you very much.